Gentlemen, Codemasters have launched crossplay on F122, but was it entirely successful? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about. So guys, if you've been living under a rock, the previous 2 weekends, Codemasters have released a beta version of what is crossplay on all platforms for us to try out. Now, the keyword to note here is it is a beta test essentially, because they weren't able to release the game with crossplay, so this is essentially the first time they've been able to get data on whether crossplay is working as it should do. Crossplay is something that many gamers have been asking for several years. This is giving the opportunity for racing leagues to expand their player base across all platforms. Not only this, but it's going to improve the longevity of this game, as friends can now play with each other regardless of what platform they are on. Having a larger online player base is excellent because it creates more lobbies for people to join at any time given in the day. So with Codemasters' brilliant decision to add this to the game and cater to what most of the gamers have been wanting for years, all they had to do to impress the gamers was to just make sure it works as it should. But did it? Well, the first thing to note is it is definitely a beta, so do not take this as the final result as to when it's going to be fully implemented into the game. Now, you may be wondering why this beta wasn't launched at the start of the game and why there was a delay, and that is because Codemasters have outsourced the development of crossplay to another company. So what does this mean exactly? Well, it means that Codemasters is paying another company to complete the project of implementing crossplay into the game. This is good because Codemasters can focus on the core game and deal with the issues that are currently present. So while Codemasters is working on the bugs and fixes, the other company is going to be completely focused on making sure crossplay goes as planned. So you may be wondering why there was a delay in the beta being released, and that is because Codemasters outsourced to a company that is based in Ukraine. Well, these unfortunate and unforeseen circumstances has impacted the release of crossplay. It was originally believed that Codemasters were going to host a beta version of crossplay before the game was released, so that on game release or shortly after it, we would have the full implementation of crossplay. Now, this would likely explain the absence of a beta for F122 altogether. Codemasters would have been waiting for a beta version of crossplay to be tested with the rest of their game, but seeing as the studio based in Ukraine wasn't able to deliver that on time for obvious reasons, they weren't able to do that. The end result is Codemasters probably weren't able to adjust the scope in time to release a core game version of a beta before the game was released. So that brings us to now, how did Codemasters go with launching crossplay over the past 2 weekends? The 5th of August would finally arrive, and this would be the first day the public sees crossplay ever. But there was issues. During this first weekend, my experience with crossplay was not promising. I was so excited to play with some new people from different platforms, but unfortunately my expectations were cut short by the bugs and issues that were in crossplay at launch. The lobby would fill up to the maximum of 20 players, or 22 if you have 2 spectators, but then proceed to get Thanos snapped in half. So then it was a race against time to try and get a race started before everyone had disconnected from the lobby. So we tried, and then we tried again, and then we tried again. This was not going well. Sometimes we still had some drivers left remaining in the lobby, but as we proceeded to race on, they would become less and less until the final lap where I would only be racing myself. This would proceed to happen for the next 5 hours of my life. Anyways, a lot of other people were experiencing technical difficulties or just instability. But I have to say, not everyone was having these issues. Somehow, some YouTubers that I seen weren't even having any instability at all. They were actually having decent races online with crossplay straight away, and I have no idea how they avoided all these problems.
Couldn't happen to me, could it?
So I got to investigating. I thought maybe it was a platform issue, so I decided to switch from PlayStation to PC to test it out. And after trying it out on PC, it was to no success. It was just as unstable as it was on PlayStation. But remember guys, this is just a beta version of crossplay. The next week would hopefully bring a better patch of crossplay for us to try. August 12th would then arrive for everyone to try the newly patched version of crossplay with hopefully some more stability improvements. But if you're in Australia, you just didn't get crossplay because it didn't launch until a day later. While the rest of the world got to play for a day while the Australians missed out, this was very similar to when the game launched on Steam for the premium edition, where a lot of players that paid for the early access just simply couldn't get access to the game on Steam. And before you comment, yes, this is accounting for the time zone difference between the UK and Australia, for example. Anyways, after being delayed, I finally got to test out this new version of crossplay released, and I was pleasantly surprised by how much stability this version had. Across all platforms, Origin, Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, I was able to race with everyone with the very stable connectivity. So things are looking very good for the full release of crossplay coming up. But I guess this will raise a few eyebrows, as there's a whole can of worms to be opened as to whether they will open this up for time trial leaderboards as well. We should also note that the parity between the platforms hasn't been scrutinized yet. But I must say things are looking pretty good at the moment. This is one thing that will help the player base to change its attitude towards the game. It is still yet to be seen how leagues will police the crossplay connectivity with how they're going to be doing league races. I say this because the feedback given through the steering wheel for most platforms is slightly different. For example, the PC versus the PlayStation, it feels like the PC has a higher refresh rate with the feedback that is given through the steering wheel compared to the PlayStation, meaning that you get a high level of detail for the PC. Now, it's up to the leagues for how they're going to actually deal with this, but at the moment I think it's going to be fun just enjoying this game with your friends if they're on different platforms, and I think this is definitely yet another step in the right direction from Codemasters. There's still a long way to go to make everything perfect in this game, but I think you can all agree with me when I say this is one of the features that we've been waiting for a very long time, and this feature will add a lot to the game and the longevity of the game to keep players playing. With the mediocrity of the DLC tracks being re-added to the game from last year, I think this is something that can lift up the spirits of the community a bit, and it is super unfortunate that the developers that were in charge of crossplay were disrupted by the events of Ukraine. So with that being said, I am remaining optimistic with the launch of the full implementation of crossplay, but it remains to be seen whether we have as many bugs as the first weekend of the trial version, or if it's going to be as stable as the second weekend. So let's hope for the second weekend, because that was almost perfect from my experience. So when can we expect the final version of crossplay to be released full time for the public to use across all platforms? There's no set date, but crossplay will be launched at the end of August. And based on the success of the last trial, I'd expect it sooner rather than later. Exciting times ahead. And if you're wondering why different platforms see different icons, that is because of the licensing between Xbox and PlayStation. If you're on a PlayStation, you will not see a Steam or Xbox icon for other players. If you're on an Xbox, you will not see a PlayStation or Steam icon for other players. However, if you are on Steam, you'll be able to see the difference in players between Origin, PlayStation, and Xbox. But for console players, you'll only see a controller with a screen for the opposite console, and also a tower with a screen for people that are playing on PC. If you wish to play crossplay when it does come out, you have to enable it from the settings in game. I hope you guys all enjoyed the story of how crossplay was launched for F1 22. And if you enjoyed the video or found it informative, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. It helps out the channel a whole bunch. And I'll see you all in a brand new one.